Hey, welcome, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. My name is Dennis Brown, and this is my weekly Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. Today, we're going to be doing another Q&A. I'm going to focus in on, questions and topics related to starting, selling, and scaling a freight brokerage. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Thank you for joining me. If you're joining me live or on replay, hit me up in the comments with the city and state you're logging in from. I'd love to hear from you. If you are part of my replay folks that are catching this after the fact, hashtag replay. Love it. Love to hear from you guys. So thank you for joining me again. It's Monday. What is it? September 8th? September 8th. Yeah, we're already in September. Kids are back to school. And here I am. So hit me up in the comments like Cynthia Moore from Maryland. She's already chimed in. And Eclectic Rose from Colorado. Welcome. Welcome, Marty. If you hit me up in the comments, I'll do a quick shout out as we let people get live. And then we'll jump into the Q&A. Okay? So I've been doing a lot of these Q&As lately. And you guys have been asking a lot of great questions. Now, sometimes you're a little slow out of the gate, like last week. I almost was about ready to shut the live down. And then all of a sudden, a flurry of questions came in. So hopefully we don't have to do that today. Get your questions ready. I don't care if they're about, how to get your authority or, becoming a freight agent or setting up your office or your website or your LinkedIn profile or, specific questions about sales and how to get shippers or any number of things that you might run into as a freight broker. Okay. There's 1,000,001 topics. I've answered a lot of these questions in the past, but I'm happy to answer them again today for you. And I'm excited that you're here. Thank you for joining. Scott from Lubbock, Texas, as always, he's been joining quite frequently. So thank you, Scott, for joining. And I would be foolish not to plug and let you guys know that I have a few spots left in the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. Okay, so let me explain to you what the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator is while I create a banner and let you guys in. Okay, so the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator is, what the heck's going on? Oh, geez, I got to delete something. That's dumb. Oh, here it is. Okay, I don't need to delete it. Okay, the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator is my Freight Broker Sales coaching and mentoring program. It is a program where I take that piece of my brain, I transplant my best freight broker sales strategies, tactics, tools, and I teach you and mentor you on how to get shippers as a freight broker, because that's one of the areas that new freight brokers struggle with. So if you're already a freight broker or an agent and you're struggling with getting customers, you definitely want to check out the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. It's almost sold out. We got a few spots left. I got a bunch of calls today, a bunch of calls tomorrow. So it will fill up. But ultimately, again, that is an 8-week live coaching program where I coach you personally, okay, on how to get shippers, how to get past the rejection, how to be different. The entire program is designed for you to be able to stand out amongst a bunch of brokers that really just all sound the same, right? So I've put over 1,000 clients through that program, and we've had some great success stories. Many of them have went on to build 6 and 7 and even 8-figure businesses. So we've been very blessed. And so if you guys want more information about that, and if it looks like something that you are really would help you, then you can sign up, book a call. We'll have a nice conversation about it. And ultimately, I may invite you into the program. Okay. So that's where we're at. We also have William from Greensboro. Welcome. The TMP Hustle. Welcome. From San Antonio. Corey, as always, from Billings, Montana. Danny Hickerson from Indianapolis, Indiana. So we got a bunch of people getting live here. We'll jump into Q&A in just a second. Okay. And if you guys have questions about the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, you can ask them during the Q&A, right? But ultimately, I'm here to try to help serve you. This, again, there was no credit card required. This is absolutely free. I've done hundreds of these lives. They've all been free. So all I would ask of you is very, very simple. Hit the like button, no matter where you're watching this, on LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube or wherever you're at. Ask some good questions, okay? And we'll go from there, right? That's your price of admission as of now. That's my ask. We got Zarab from Pakistan. We got people from all over the place. So we're going to give it 30 more seconds, and then we're going to start the questions. Hold your questions until I say go. Hopefully you guys have some really good questions today. I'm sure you will. You usually do. I'm just grabbing a quick drink, and then we'll get the show on the road, okay? Okay, let's go, guys and gals. What questions do you have for me? This is the Q&A session. Here's how it works. You type your question in the chat box. I will do my absolute best to try to answer your questions. Sometimes most times, there are more questions than there are time. I'll do my absolute best to try to answer your question or point you in the right direction, okay? That's my goal. So without further ado, you guys start asking questions, and we'll get the show on the road. Let's see, where are we at? It's 12:06. All right. Who's got the first question? Who's gonna be the icebreaker? Who's gonna be the person that comes out and is, a little bit, let's call it, it's gonna kind of lead the pack? Who's gonna break the ice with the first question? It can be questions about sales. It can be questions about carrier relationships. It can be questions about getting your authority. It could be questions about, getting hired as an agent. It could be questions about, profit margins or different modes of transportation, whether that be, truckload or LTL or partials. It can be almost anything. What questions, what challenges are you guys running into? And I'll do my best to try to answer. Here we go. Scott's got a question. Do you have a template for effective follow-up email to a shipper? Okay. So as far as a follow-up email to the shipper, the key here is there is no one size fits all cold call. There is no one size fits all follow-up email. Okay. Number one, it depends upon what you're following up on and what the last action was. But ultimately, the key here is that you want to be different. Here's a few things you don't want to do. Right? Hey, just touching base, just following up, just, did you get my asking the question? Did you get my freight quote? Did you get my last email? The problem with those types of responses is they've heard them so many times before that it's going to position you with all the other brokers. And what's going to happen is they're going to treat you like all the other brokers, right? You're going to get a triggered negative response. So what you want to do is you want to be a little bit different, okay? You want to stand out from the crowd. So the follow-up email may use some sales intelligence that you gathered in your initial cold call, whether that be sales intelligence about the fact that they love the Buffalo Bills, or they love the NFL, or they like hockey. Maybe it's sales intelligence about a specific question that they had or a challenge that they had. Maybe it's specific sales intelligence about something that you read or an article that was recently put out that could directly impact their industry, right? Or their job, right? So you want to stand out. You don't want to just say, hey, I'm just following up, just touching base, just giving you a quick call, or just sending you a quick email. You want to sound different, whether that be on the phone or whether that be through email. So you want to keep it short, you want to be different, and you want to get to the point. Okay. So there's no template for a follow-up email. Here's the problem. If I gave you a template for a follow-up email, what would happen is everybody would just use that same follow-up email, right? And that would be their standard follow-up email. And I'm not a big fan of that. The problem is that getting responses via email is hard, even if you're original, even if you are different. It's extremely hard when you're boring and you sound like everybody else. So if you got a follow-up, Scott, let me know, but hopefully that points you in the right direction. Danny asks, how much does your sales accelerator program cost? Good. Okay. So the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, there are options ranging anywhere from, like $1,000 up to currently around $3,500. Now the price was slated to go up earlier in the year, but I got ill. I had some personal health issues. It was the high-end program was slated to go up to about $7,500, but currently it's around $3,500. So there are options. There are a variety of options between $997 up to $3,500. Okay. So it's very affordable. I mean, the reality is it's 8 weeks of live coaching. Okay. If all you got out of that, if you hit every limb on the way down and banged your head on every limb on the way down, and all you did was get one small shipper doing just one load a week and a couple hundred profit, that's almost $11,000 a year in profit. Year one from one small shipper. That's a 3x return on your investment. I've got clients that have told me in written testimonials saying they've gotten a 50x return on their investment in the program. Okay. So I'm not here to promise you that you're going to be a millionaire. I'm not here to promise you anything other than the fact that I know my system works. I know that a lot of students have taken it and parlayed it into great businesses. I know that I've used it. I know we've continued to evolve it over time based upon technology and based upon the different markets. So ultimately, my system is designed to help you get 2 to 4 new shippers in any market per month, in any market conditions, market up or market down. Okay. Because you need to be able to get clients in any market, not just when, you're shooting like fish in a barrel, like, back in 2021, 22, right? Hope that helps. William, would you consider dispatching? Would you consider starting a trucking company and hiring owner operators to become an asset-based company? Would I personally, William? No, I wouldn't. I don't teach dispatching. I don't promote dispatching. I don't have anything against dispatchers, but my preference is freight brokerage. I like to have shipper direct clients as opposed to a dispatcher that's taking clients from brokers. It's a different business. Okay. It's a different business. Dispatching and brokering are very different. So I prefer brokering. Would I hire owner operators to lease on? Would I lease on owner operators? No. I had tons of opportunities to own trucks, to hire on, tons of owner operators and lease them on. I didn't. I focused on brokerage. Being asset-based didn't mean anything to me. Okay. We built a highly successful business. Matter of fact, when I sold the company that I sold, LDI, I think in 2024, I'm pretty sure, I think it was around $450 million in sales, and they don't have any assets. They don't own any trucks. The largest brokerages out there don't own any trucks. Many of the largest brokerages out there that are doing 50, 100, 500 million, $1 billion don't own any trucks. Okay. You don't need to own trucks. People use that as a crutch, right? Because they'll hear the objection, oh, we only work with asset-based. That's bullshit. They work with brokers that don't have trucks. They just don't want to work with you. Okay. Not you personally. They just don't want to work with you because you've cold called them and you sound like everybody else. Right. So they give you the Heisman. They know you'll back off and stop calling them. So hope that helps, William. Thank you, Cynthia. I appreciate the referral. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. Do you know much about co-brokering agreements that specifically focus on expedited freight? Like, how do you go about getting in touch with such people, having been an expedite for many years on our carrier side? Okay. So let me read that again. Do you know much about co-brokering agreements that specifically focus on expedited? Like, how do you go about getting in touch with such people, having been in expedite for many years? Well, you can, as a freight broker, okay, you can specialize in expedited freight. It can be your niche. You don't need to co-broker with another broker to do expedited. Now, if you have expedited customers, if you have expedited customers and you don't know how to service those customers, meaning you don't have a carrier database and it's not your primary niche, and you want to work with another broker to co-broker those loads, they handle the operations, you handle the sales, you can do that. You just got to find and develop a relationship with a broker that can handle the operational side of the expedite, right? And you handle the customer side. I don't recommend that. Right? I recommend that you understand and learn how to do expedited freight, not only to get the shippers, but also to source the carriers, rate the shipments, and do everything you need to do to deliver those shipments on time in good condition with no problems. So I'm not sure if you have a follow-up to that, but if you were looking, the hard part about expedited freight, okay, using that as a niche, is it's hard to identify companies that use a lot of expedited freight, okay? People do not use expedited freight unless they have to. They don't pay expedited prices because you got to know, just so you guys know, expedited prices can be 2, 3, 5, 10 times more than a normal rate, depending upon what you need, whether that be air or over the road expedited. The point is that expedited freight can be very, very expensive. People only use it when they absolutely have to. So a lot of industries that work just in time, they have just in time inventories where they don't have a lot of inventory in stock of parts or materials or whatever the case may be. Those are the companies that have a tendency to do it. The auto industry is well known for doing a lot of just in time and having to expedite. But it's hard to go out and make a list and say, hey, all these shippers do expedite. But it's easy to go out and make a list of, oh, hey, this is a produce guy who sells produce, or this is a guy who a company does bottled beverages, or this is a guy who does building supplies, right? So it's a little harder to source the actual shippers and know that they are specifically using expedited, if you get my point. I hope that helps. Yeah, Harry, great win for the Bills last night. I didn't watch the game, but I did hear about it. Zarab asks, how do I find companies that offer freight agent or freight broker partnership programs? One of the best ways, Zarab, to find those companies is LinkedIn. Okay? There are lots of companies that hire agents with and without experience that are on LinkedIn. Now, they don't all have job ads posted, but you'll see agent recruiters and business development people that work for those companies posting regularly, talking regularly about their agent programs, talking regularly about agent programs in general. And so LinkedIn is one of my favorite places. It's one of the places that you'll find smaller companies, because if you don't have experience as a broker or as an agent, right? If you don't have a lot of hands-on experience, you don't have a book of business, you're not going to be able to go to those bigger programs. You're not going to be able to go to my old company, LDI, and get brought on as an agent. Why? Because they're one of the leaders in the agent space, and they don't need brokers who don't have a book of business. They built the product that was focused on shipper or the brokers or agents that have a book of business. So they've got a product that they can attract those type of people. Whereas the smaller brokerages, sometimes a little bit more challenging for them to compete with brokers who have to get agents with a book of business, but they'll take on agents who have the right attitude and the right skill set, but don't necessarily have a book. So I always recommend, if you don't have experience or a book, find a broker who's doing $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, $10 million in sales, has been around for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, is looking to grow. Develop a relationship with them. Show them how you can bring them revenue with zero fixed cost, zero upfront cost, right? And you only get paid when you produce. And I promise you, they're going to be excited. Okay. That's the market that you should be going after as far as freight agents. I'd say LinkedIn would be a great place to go. Obviously, Google's a great place to go. There's no website out there that says, hey, these are companies that are hiring for agents. If it's a job board like Indeed or a job board like Jobs and Logistics, in most cases, those are larger companies that are looking for a book of business. So you may run into a wall there. You may run to the occasional one that doesn't, but I hope that helps. Pauline, I'm just getting in the freight brokering, and I find the hardest thing that I'm coming across is the actual find businesses in general. What are your tips and tricks? Okay. I'm just getting into the freight brokering, and I find the hardest thing that I'm coming across is actually find businesses in general. Okay. Yeah, that shouldn't be your biggest problem. That should be pretty easy. Let me share with you a resource. It's free. Go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/free leads. Okay, that's going to bring you to a website called Apollo. You'll be able to get access to hundreds of thousands of manufacturers, distributors, producers, shippers. Okay. Not only, and you'll be able to sort that by different industry types, company size, the job titles, right? All that is absolutely free. You don't even have to put your credit card in. It's 100% free. Now, they do have other services that they sell, and that's how they do this. They offer a freemium model. So if you go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/free leads, sign up for a free account. You don't have to put a credit card in. You'll get access to be able to look up companies based on geography, industry, size, job titles, and the whole ball of wax. And you'll be able to develop a list of your niche, right? Say you're in the bottled beverage niche and you want companies that are in New York and PA and New Jersey and Massachusetts that are in bottled beverages and they're over 5 million in sales, but they're less than $1 billion in sales. It'll give you a whole list of those companies and not only the list of the companies, but you'll also be able to search for shipping manager, logistics manager, warehouse manager, and it'll give you the names of those people, right? Now, you can even get their cell phones and emails if you want to pay a little bit extra, but you can get all that data, including the company name, email, or, the company name, the company website, and the company phone number for free. So anybody looking for leads, that's the place to go. Okay. freightbrokerbootcamp.com/free leads. Good question, Pauline. Thank you. Danny asks, how long after the initial contact with a shipper is it appropriate to send up a follow-up email or phone call? Well, my theory is this. Before you ended that call, you should have established the next step. And the next step is to schedule the next call or to ask how soon should you follow up. Ideally, you're going from scheduled call to scheduled call to scheduled call to scheduled call to customer. If you get somebody on the phone and then you don't identify the next step, meaning you don't schedule a call or you don't, identify when and how you need to follow up, well, then now you're just leaving it to luck, right? And chances are luck is not a winning strategy. Okay. So my strong suggestion to you is before you get off the sales call, if you've developed enough rapport where they're interested in getting information and talking to you, you should try to schedule a call. If not, you should ask them, okay, great. I'm going to send you this information. What would be the best time to follow up so that we could have a quick conversation, right? So just ask them. The best way to understand how quickly to follow up is to ask them. Now, as a general rule, if you didn't ask all that, I would say sooner than later. If they've asked for information, right? Say, depending upon what they've asked for. If they've asked for a freight quote, then obviously you want to follow up very quickly. If they've just asked for some basic information from you, like your setup packet or some proof that you're a broker or whatever the case may be, then I would say realistically, you're going to be following up within 48 hours. Okay. But again, the best way to identify so you don't step on people's toes is to ask them. All right. So if, as a general rule, it's sooner than later, but here's the thing. You don't want to call somebody every single day following up, right? The problem with that, obvious, is that they see on their phone that you're calling. They've got caller ID. They know who you are. So, what I do is I develop, for follow-up, again, depending on whether you're just doing the cold outreach or the follow-up is much more based upon establishing the next step before you get off the call or asking what is the appropriate timeline and procedure for following up and then not stepping on their toes. Hope that helps. Okay. I purchased 3 services you offer. Okay. I've used BTS, FAF5, CFS, and FHWA, and the rates are so low compared to stats of items coming in and being moved. I believe the economy is going into a recession. Who knows, man? I don't know I'm not sure what programs you've been a part of. I only have 2 programs. Okay. I have the Freight Broker Bootcamp, which is my startup program, right? If you need help just becoming a freight broker or freight agent, just getting started with the foundational stuff, freightbrokerbootcamp.com. If you are a existing freight broker, freight agent, and you need help with sales and getting shippers, you go to Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. That's my coaching program. Again, that's the only two programs I have. I'm not quite sure specifically what you're talking about with rates. Yeah, the rating tools as a general rule are just a basic guideline. You don't use the DAT or Truck Stop as an exclusive rating tool. You don't just say, okay, it's Buffalo to Atlanta flatbed, and here's the rate, and then we just mark it up. That's not how it works. Okay, that's a surefire way to fail. You use that as a guideline or a baseline or a range to talk to carriers, to source carriers, to negotiate what I call, you need to find the market. So the way you do that is you either post loads and you take calls, or you call carriers that are part of the lane history, or carriers that have live trucks, and then you negotiate that, right? So here's the cool part. You only got to do that on a lane once to have a baseline of understanding of what the cost to buy a truck is from point A to point B. After that, number one, you've got a relationship with a carrier because you've already talked to them, or maybe you've ran the load with them, and you've got a little bit of a baseline. Once you start running that lane, Buffalo to Atlanta flatbeds, you're not going to have to do a lot of sourcing for rates, because you're going to have a baseline of where it starts. You're going to know what the cost is. You're going to know how much you can mark up. And at that point, now it gets a lot easier. But the first time you're doing rates on any given lane, you've got to be very careful not to just use the rating tools, but you also want to validate it with third-party data directly from carriers that are interested in moving that lane. And the worst thing you can do is call up a carrier that's got his truck posted from Buffalo to Atlanta for a flatbed and say, hey, how much do you want to move this lane? They all want $3, $4, $5 a mile. Of course, that's what they'd love to get, but that's not what the spot market's going to give them. So you need to use that rating tool to start at the bottom and then work your way up and identify and do what I call, again, find the market. You need to find the spot market of what it costs to buy a truck. And that's going to require you to get hung up on a few times. It's going to require you to maybe piss a few people off. But once you've identified it, now you understand the cost basis and you can mark it up from there. So I hope that helps. Trey, the best way to sign up for the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator is to go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/FBSA2. All the details are there. You can't just enroll. I don't just enroll anybody. It's an invitation only program. If you go to that page, if you're already a broker or an agent, you go to that page, you can schedule a call with me. And then if it's not sold out by the time we do that, then we'll have a quick interview. Maybe I'll invite you into the program. But yeah, I appreciate you asking, but that's the best way to get into my orbit as it relates to the Sales Accelerator. Okay. Yeah. The program's going to sell out. I think I have like 3 spots left. It'll probably sell out by tomorrow. But yeah, so that would be your best bet, but there's still available spots to book a call if you're serious, but I'm not really looking for tire kickers. So just make sure you're serious. Okay. The question I have is about current market and how can I lock in customers if I can't pay carriers enough to operate? Okay. So, the question is about the current market and how I can lock in customers if I can't pay carriers enough to operate. Listen, as a broker, and this is something you got to get your head around, you do not determine the rates. Shippers do not determine the rates. Carriers do not determine the rates. And whether anybody likes it or not, it doesn't matter how much it costs to operate a truck per mile or on a given shipment. That doesn't matter. Don't get mad at me. I didn't make the rules. These are the rules of Economics 101. Price is determined by supply and demand. The more trucks you have compared to the number of loads causes pressure on pricing, and pricing goes down. There's more competition, right? There's more competition for the load, so pricing goes down. The more loads than trucks, right? Prices go up. Okay? That's how economics works. So you don't determine the rates. So what you determine is what is the spot price to to buy a truck from point A to point B. I need to know I need to find the market. I need to find that spot price because you can't be the most expensive, but you also don't necessarily need to be the cheapest, but you need to understand that sweet spot within 50 to $100 so that you understand what you can pay so that you can mark it up. And then at that point offer value to the shipper, right? The shipper knows you're in this to make money. You're not a nonprofit. You're a for-profit business. So depending upon how good you source and depending upon how good you sell are the two biggest variables on how much profit you make. Most brokers make about 15%. So that means on a $1,000 load, they make about $150. On a $3,000 load, right, they make $450. Okay? So I don't know if I'm answering your question. I hope I am. I'm trying to hone in so you understand kind of the overall macro of what drives pricing, and then you can go from there. Hope that helps. Love it. If you're part of the Sales Accelerator, I don't see your name. I just see Real Life Reality. You probably purchased the self-paced online program, which is great. It's a great program. That program doesn't include coaching, the 8 weeks of coaching. If you went through the Sales Accelerator online program, right, which is the course component, and you want to do the live coaching, right? Obviously, there'll be an upcharge, but you can just go to that same URL, freightbrokerbootcamp.com/FBSA2, and you can review the information. It'll tell you everything that's included in the Sales Accelerator Live. And then you can schedule a call, right? Because it sounds to me like you bought the Sales Accelerator online course self-paced that doesn't include the coaching. If you want the coaching, you can just look at the details on that page right there and schedule a call. And there'll just be, an upcharge based upon the different services that we're offering. Okay, so hope that helps. Okay, question. I would like to reactivate my freight broker business. I had paused it last year. Sure, if you had your broker authority and you paused it, meaning you went inactive, meaning you took your bond off, right? You canceled your bond and you went inactive, you can reactivate it. You just got to go through the reactivation process through the FMCSA. You'll end up logging in, you'll have to if you don't have a bond, you'll have to get a new bond, and then they'll notify the FMCSA and you can get reactivated. So yeah, you can do that. Question. Can I do freight brokerage while sitting in India? Basically, I'm from India. I really do want a freight brokerage. I speak English and also know the industry well. Yes, there are a lot of remote brokers and agents. Now, I can tell you that there are more remote agents than there are brokers. Let me explain to you why. First of all, a freight agent is an independent contractor. They're a business owner that operates under a licensed freight broker. Most licensed freight brokers are located here domestically in the US. And the reason being is because in order to qualify to become a freight broker, you have to get a freight broker bond. And it's harder to get a bond if you live in India and you're a citizen of India than it is if you're in the US, mainly because of their ability to determine risk and credit. Okay. So most remote brokers are actually agents. They work with a brokerage located in the US as an independent agent, and they get 50 to 70% of the profit from any of the loads they generate. As an agent, you basically operate as a broker. You provide the same services, but you don't have to do any of the back office. You just focus on getting clients, moving their freight, and you get paid 50 to 70% of the profit. So if there's a $200 that's made on a load, you're going to get anywhere between $100 and $140 profit on that one load. So you can see how it can become very lucrative once you start moving 10 loads a week. 10 loads at $100, that's $1,000 a week. 10 loads at $140, that's $1,400 a week, right? So I'm not very good at math, but that's pretty good. And that's really, really good in India. Okay. So I hope that helps. You're welcome, John. Okay. You guys have any other questions? If not, I'm going to let you guys go for the day. I'm sure you're busy. What time is it? 12:35. So we've done about a half an hour worth of live questions. All I can tell you is this. If you are a broker or you are an agent and you're struggling to get shippers, okay? You're sick of getting rejection. You're sick of getting all the same rebuttals, right? Hey, we don't use brokers. Hey, we only use asset based, or hey, your price is too expensive, or hey, whatever number, call me back or send me info, right? Any of those types of smokescreen objections. If you're getting any of those objections and you're struggling just to get your prospects' attention and you're not moving any shipments, just being upfront with you, check out the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. Again, we've had over 1,000 students go through that program. At the end of that program, I have everybody do a survey as they exit the program after they've completed the program. So, and I ask them, how likely are you to recommend this program to one of your friends? 1 to 10. And the average rating is a 9.2 out of 10. I tell everybody I would have been happy with a 7, ecstatic with an 8. A 9.2, we're knocking it out of the park. Okay. So the clients and the customers that come through this program are extremely happy with the transformation that they're seeing and what they're gathering and what they're getting by the end. And again, this program has morphed. It started out as a 5-week program and now it's an 8-week program. There's a lot more things included in it. I've really honed it down and perfected it. So if you guys are struggling to get shippers and you're looking for help, it's not free, it's not cheap, but the return on investment, I mean, it can be huge, right? Again, just one small shipper doing one load a week, you're talking 3 times return on your investment. That's just year one, not 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road. And that's just one client. I have clients that are coming back to me telling me they're getting 2 or 3 or 4 new shippers per month, right? New clients per month. You do the math. It adds up really fast. Okay? So I hope that helps. Nora says, whenever I call, everyone just answers like, we're doing good. Some are just telling me we have our own trucks. It sucks. Actually, I'm new. I joined last month. Okay. I get it. Here's the problem. And I said it earlier. You have to be different. If you sound like every other broker out there or every other agent out there, you're going to struggle. I promise you, you're going to struggle because all you're relying on is luck. That you find somebody where there's the perfect timing where they absolutely have to have you. And that's just not the case. That's not how to build a successful business. You need to learn to be different. You need to learn to stand out from the crowd. You need to learn how to get their attention in the first 5 or 10 seconds so that you can even get to minute 1 or 2 or 3 in the conversation, asking good questions and developing rapport. If you can't do that, you're dead in the water. Okay? So hope that helps. Okay, hope that helps. I have shipper, but I'm struggling to get surety bond. I don't know. If you can't get a surety bond to become a broker, become an agent because you don't need a surety bond. You don't need your freight broker license. Become a freight agent and make 50 to 70%. There's no magic way for you to get a bond. Okay. If you want to, you can check out, let me see. I do have a company that does bonds that I recommend. They're a partner of mine. You can go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/bond. Now, that is a company that will work with startups. If you come through this form, come through this website, they will know that you're part of my community and they will take care of you. They will do their absolute best. I can't guarantee you they're going to underwrite your bond. I can't guarantee your price. They're very competitive. They're one of the leaders in the industry and they'll do a great job. So if any of you are looking for bonding, right, or to shop your bond or to get a new bond, or you're at that point in your business where you need a bond, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/bond. We've referred them tons of clients. Okay. And 100% of those clients have been happy. I have heard no negative feedback on my end. Okay. So that's the best I can offer you. Hope that helps. All right, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up. Again, if you're looking for bonds, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com/BOND, bond. If you're looking for help with becoming or with getting shippers and freight broker sales, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/FBSA2. And if you're looking for just straight startup help, hey, this is my first time. I'm just trying to understand, what do I got to do to, what does it mean to be a broker? How does being a broker operate? How do I get my authority? How do I become an agent? The foundation startup stuff. I put over 10,000 students through my Freight Brokers Bootcamp program. You can sign up for the startup program at freightbrokerbootcamp.com. We offer a 60-day, 100% unconditional money-back guarantee on that startup program. So listen, appreciate you guys being here. So you had some great questions today, a little bit different. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you for being here. If you found this valuable, hit the like button. If you learned one thing from this live, hit the like button. I appreciate it. If you're on LinkedIn or if you're on Facebook or if you're on YouTube, wherever you're at, do me a favor, hit the like button. Appreciate you guys being here. Have an awesome day. Have an awesome week. And I'll see you next week on the next Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. Thanks.